Hey everybody, this is Killer Arcade Games. I'm Chris, and today I'm going to make you a little guide on buying arcade games for noobs. And the reason I want to do this is I get a lot of questions about, hey, where do you find arcade games? I get emails from people, hey, I found this arcade game. Should I buy it? Is it worth the money? And it's kind of difficult to say. So I thought I'd try to give you my knowledge or what I've learned over the years from going from an absolute noob on buying arcade cabinets to being kind of like somebody who's just barely graduated outside of noob, in my opinion. I have bought 5 of these machines in here. There's 2 more in the garage. So I've been buying a lot of them. I kind of feel more confident on what to look for, but repairing them there's still areas that I'm not great at. So I thought I'd go over the basics, all that stuff that you may want to learn to buy an arcade cabinet, where to buy it, what to look for, what to avoid, and maybe just some general tips. Now, some of this is going to be kind of no-brainer stuff, but I do want to cover it just in case someone may not be thinking of those things. So I thought the first thing I should cover would be where to buy arcade cabinets. Now, by far, the top one that I look at is Facebook Marketplace. I'm not a big Facebook fan, but I spend most of my time on Facebook Marketplace just trolling for arcade cabinets. And you really need to be persistent because these machines are getting more and more rare. So trying to find them means you've got to be on top of it. You can't sit there and let an ad go up for a game that's well priced, in good condition. It's going to be gone sometimes within an hour or less, depending on the game. So my suggestion on that is to just troll it constantly. Search for your favorite games, the games you want to buy. Look all day, look several times a day. I'm not saying ruin your life over this, but open your phone when you get a chance, look at Facebook Marketplace, see if anything new's popped up, and move on. I did that with almost every single cabinet I own currently. Outside of Facebook Marketplace, there's also Craigslist, which is kind of the medium to okay option in my opinion. I've never found anything I've actually bought from there. I've had a few that I've seen that I wanted that were good prices. It seems to me that sometimes people on Craigslist don't necessarily know what they have, since maybe there's not a lot of other ads on there for that thing, so they just put it up not knowing what they have, and you can maybe get a good deal there. And beyond Craigslist, there is OfferUp, which is not very good, to be honest. I've never found anything on there personally. I don't know anybody who's ever said, hey, I got a score on OfferUp, but I'm sure it exists. I would check it every now and then to see if you find anything you're really looking for. And finally, I would say eBay is an option. The problem with eBay is the value is going to be jacked up a little higher than it should be because eBay is going to take a cut from the seller, and then you're going to have to ship it to you. Of course, probably never going to see it ahead of time before you get to buy it. I don't recommend a new arcade buyer do that. You're either going to pay an inflated price and not get something that could be that great, or you may get something with problems and you didn't know it because you didn't see it ahead of time. So I'd personally just, if you're new, stick to Facebook Marketplace initially, get a feel for what ads look like there, and then you can gauge the other options. So the next thing I want to cover is what should you look for? And in my opinion, you should look for a game you really love. This sounds like a no-brainer. The reason for that is these machines are heavy. They're kind of difficult to move around. I don't care how tough you think you are. These are 400-pound machines, some of them heavier than that, and they're hard to move. They're hard to get into a truck. They're hard to get on a trailer sometimes. You're probably going to need help. Then you're going to have to get the thing home and get it into your house, which can be very difficult. I would strongly recommend measuring doorways. Now, most standard American doorways will fit these no problem. Modern houses, at least. There are a few rooms in my house, bedrooms in my house, that would probably be a struggle to get certain games through the doorway. So keep that in mind. I built a shed in my backyard to house my arcade machines. That's how insane I got on it. I can only ever fit them in my garage, and I didn't want to do that anymore. So I built an entire room for my arcades. That's not realistic for almost any arcade fan or any sane person on the planet, if I'm being realistic. Okay, so let's move on to the basics of reading an ad. You really want to, of course, make sure it works. You want to see an image of this thing fully running, fully booted. And this, again, sounds like a no-brainer, but when I go on Facebook Marketplace, I see a lot of arcade ads where the machine is off, or it's like mid-boot, so you only see the messages when it's booting up. And that makes me wonder, is something wrong with it? Does it actually boot up? So those are things you want to look for. You want to see the game running, in attract mode, running or being played. One thing to keep in mind about that, though, you may see lines on the CRT. These are old tube-style TVs, and some of you may not remember when you point a camera at them, especially to take an image, it's going to look like lines are going through the screen. That's just the game's refresh rate, so don't let that worry you too much. But it's very important to see a good, bright, crisp CRT monitor running in an ad. This is a great example. You might be seeing glare from my lights on the screen, but this is a beautiful Killer Instinct monitor that I got, and it was just like this when I got it. Now, I paid more for this cabinet, but it was already this good looking. And I cannot stress enough how important it is if you're new to buying arcades to just find a CRT that's in good condition, because it is very, very difficult and it's a dangerous operation to actually dive in and try to repair one of these yourself. So this is as good a time as any to give you guys the disclaimer. If you buy an arcade cabinet and you don't know what you're doing, do not start poking around in the back of this monitor, in the back of the machine there. Even if it's unplugged, it does not matter. A lot of these monitors do not self-discharge, and even if they claim to, don't trust it. Still discharge it manually. Listen to the noise this thing makes. Wait, did I unplug it? Okay. Ooh. Yeah, good crackle. Snap, crackle, and pop. That could have been my fingers. You're gonna need to look that up on YouTube, and I don't recommend doing it unless you really, really feel confident in knowing what you're doing with these. The capacitors on the chassis of the monitor hold a lot of power in them. Even if it's been off for a week, a month, it could still have electricity in it, and it could still zap you badly enough to potentially stop your heart. So just be extremely careful doing this. I don't want anybody getting killed watching my video. Do this at your own risk, or just don't do it at all. Find a professional, find somebody who knows what they're doing, or really educate yourself before messing with these monitors. Another thing to look for is, does the ad say if the game is functioning properly? The reason I say that, again, no brainer, but there could be a joystick that's not working properly. There could be buttons that aren't working properly, and that's really not that big of an issue. Those can be replaced fairly easily by somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing. There's no real danger to it. Turn the machine off, pop them out, they unscrew. You might need a special tool, a button wrench. If you do, I'll try to remember to leave a link to that in the description just in case. That's a very good baseline point for starting your arcade repairs on your own. Now, if you're buying a racing cabinet, another thing you really want to look for is, does it say if the steering works? Seems like a dumb question. Steering and pedals and shifter, do they all work normally? The reason I say that is these wear out after a while. The potentiometers inside of them do get worn out. A lot of these machines I've seen at minimum hundreds, if not thousands, if not even tens of thousands of hours of usage, and they really can get worn out, and repairing those is more difficult than swapping out joysticks and buttons, and it can get expensive too. Ask if the feedback in the steering wheel is still working. There is a motor behind the dash on these that controls the feedback in the wheel, an important feature of the game in my opinion. If they don't know, you definitely want to go over there and ask to see the machine running. Try playing the game, see if you feel that feedback in the wheel. If you don't, that can be an expensive and difficult repair. I'd also make sure you feel if the gas feels right, the brake feels right on the machines. In the case of Hydro Thunder, does the throttle seem to function the entire range? All those things are very important. I should probably cover a little more about the CRT. Now, if you show up and the CRT looks dim or it looks blurry, it's very possible you're gonna need a new flyback. And what that is a flyback transformer that goes on the chassis, and as I covered before, you really have no business messing with that thing. It is possible to adjust it, but again, that's a dangerous, slightly dangerous process for someone who doesn't know what they're doing. I would just recommend finding a professional to help you with it. Usually, if the game is blurry and dim, you're probably gonna need a new flyback, or you may need a new cap kit. That means a capacitor kit where they completely go through the circuit board that powers the screen and change out all the capacitors. There may even be more stuff beyond that that is wrong with the monitor that you really just need professional or experienced help with. So it's important when you're buying your first arcade cabinet to find a working, good-looking monitor, in my opinion. So I know this is gonna come up. Someone's gonna say, well, can't I just pull out this monitor and put in an LCD? And yes, you can. I do not recommend it for a number of reasons. One, again, being safety. Even though the monitor is disconnected, you could touch something that has still technically got some electricity in it. Beyond that, the LCD is not gonna look as good. And you're gonna have to know how to adjust the video wires, cut them, splice them into the new connection to make them run on an LCD. And the LCD is just not equipped to handle these low resolution games. These look great on a CRT, but they actually run at well below 480i in most cases. So they look pretty bad when you blow them up on a 1080p screen nowadays. Now, if you do go that route of yanking out the CRT, I really ask you guys to not throw it away for a number of reasons. They're bad for the environment, for one. Most places want you to recycle them. But what I would say to do is maybe you can make a little bit of money off of it by putting it on Facebook Marketplace yourself and saying it's broken, it needs something, it's fuzzy, whatever. Somebody is going to contact you and probably make you an offer for it. At the very least, they'll take it off your hands for free, and they can repair it in most cases. You may think this monitor is beyond repair. Gosh, I can't fix this thing's trash. It's not trash. In almost all cases, an experienced monitor repair guy or enthusiast in the arcade world can get it fixed. If you want proof of that, go to Mike's Amateur Arcade Monitor Repair on YouTube. That guy fixes all kinds of stuff that seems well beyond repair. So don't throw it out. It's bad for the environment. It's bad for the arcade world in general. That'd be one less CRT. They're not making these anymore. These things are a dying breed, so don't make one more go into a landfill. It doesn't need to. Now, it's really difficult for me to tell you what you should be paying for an arcade cabinet. It just kind of depends on your area. It depends on the condition of the machine, and that's something you've got to kind of determine on your own. Now, I will say that some games are just way more valuable than others. For example, Killer Instinct is a sought-after machine. It is one that people really like, apparently, and they're becoming harder and harder to find. So you'll typically find them for $1,800 to $3,000 nowadays, and it seems like the value just keeps going up and up. It is crazy how much people are paying for Killer Instinct games right now, but you could find other games like Hydro Thunder. You can often find those for maybe $700 to $800 working just fine in my area. I do want to stress this. If the price seems ridiculous, and by ridiculous I mean over $3,000, and it's on some website somewhere, a lot of people make this mistake where they see those websites where they're selling what looks almost like a new Killer Instinct or a new Mortal Kombat machine. They aren't new. They're refurbished original machines that have been marked up ridiculously because they're probably offering you some kind of warranty, and then you're gonna have to pay to ship it to you. Those sites are just not really worth buying from. You can get a much better deal by doing a little bit of homework and just finding a good deal on Facebook Marketplace. Another issue with those websites is some sellers use those websites as a benchmark for their price. So if you ever see one of those ads on Facebook Marketplace for an NFL Blitz cabinet, this thing sells online for $3,500 or whatever they're gonna try to tell you, that's not the case. Don't pay $2,000 from this person who doesn't know anything about arcades just because they saw some ad online for it for over $3,000. It's not worth that. That is not a benchmark. eBay, other websites are not a benchmark for what a game is really worth. Okay, so let's move on to deal breakers for a new buyer. This is my opinion on this. These are things that you should really consider as no-goes 100% when you see an ad for this or you see the machine in person. As covered before, if the CRT is dead, won't turn on or whatever, one of the biggest things I see on Facebook Marketplace that makes me laugh all the time is you'll see a monitor that's either off or missing red, green, or blue color. And the seller will try and tell you it just needs a new bulb. That's all it needs. That is 1000% not true. There's no bulb anywhere in these CRT monitors. If it's missing a color, a capacitor is probably out. There could be a problem with the knob that adjusts the color. There could be a number of things that are just broken on that monitor. And if it's not working at all, not getting power, there's a number of things that could go wrong with that. I can tell you this, all of them are gonna be above your level as a noob arcade buyer, so just avoid it altogether. Another red flag for me when you're looking at an ad is if it says something is wrong with the cabinet, but it's an easy fix. I can tell you in almost all cases, it's not gonna be an easy fix for a new arcade buyer, someone who does not work on arcades frequently and doesn't have the confidence to mess with them. Now, if they tell you the joystick's not working on the left side, easy fix, that's pretty easy in my opinion. You as a noob could probably figure out how to replace that. Now, if they tell you the game won't start up, but hey, it's an easy fix, that may be kind of true. It could just be the hard drive has failed if the game has a hard drive. But that's assuming you know where to buy a new hard drive for it, and in this case, it's gonna probably be a flash drive. That's assuming you know how to install the new hard drive or flash drive. And as a new arcade buyer, you may not even know where to look. So I would avoid stuff like that just to be safe. Now this one is a real deal breaker in my opinion. If they tell you the monitor comes on, the game just doesn't work, the game doesn't boot. Again, there's a small chance it could just be the hard drive if the game has a hard drive. Anything beyond that, repairing a game board is like expert level arcade repair, and you are not anywhere near that. I'm not anywhere near that level. I can replace the hard drive. Beyond that, if the board itself needs repairs, I'd have to find somebody who knows what they're doing. And even then, you may not find somebody who can repair the board. In almost all cases, you're not gonna find a replacement brand new PCB to put inside of one of these cabinets. Like for example, if the Killer Instinct board is dead in this cabinet, I can't do much about it. I can potentially find someone who knows how to repair it. I have a couple sources, or I can sell it broken, but I can't just go to Best Buy or Arcades R Us online, which I don't think is a real place, and order a new Killer Instinct board. They don't exist. They're not making new Killer Instinct boards. They're not making new Mortal Kombat boards. So just keep that in mind. That is something you really, really should avoid. Don't listen if they say it's an easy fix. Another thing you should be wary of and probably just avoid altogether is a cabinet that is considered untested or unknown condition. And even if they tell you it worked last time we had it on, it could have been decades ago at that point, depending on how old the machine is. Don't take the risk. If they're not allowing you to bring an extension cord, bring a generator, or anything to test the cabinet there on the spot, they probably know that it probably doesn't work and they want to try to get as much money out of it as possible. Sure, you may find parts online that say untested, and they're probably being serious because maybe they don't have the machine to test it in. But if you have a full standing machine right there with an outlet nearby, you should be able to test it and find out if it works. And if they really wanted to sell it at a good price, they would show you it worked. So keep that in mind. Okay, so this video has probably gone on way longer than expected. I'm afraid to edit this thing down, but if you've made it this far, I was planning to go over all of my machines and tell you what I paid for each of them and what was wrong with each of them and how much of a hassle it was to get it working. I do still plan to do that in a future video, probably next couple weeks here. So stay tuned, subscribe for that if you want to actually see that. I think you might find it interesting as a new arcade buyer what I paid for these. Some of these I got great deals on. One of the things you really need when searching for a real arcade cabinet, in my opinion, is patience. Beyond money and beyond disposable income is patience, because you may not find what you're looking for. I probably looked for over a year for a Killer Instinct cabinet, and I got very, very lucky. This channel has given me a lot of arcade opportunities that most people are never gonna have because people see the channel. It's like I'm broadcasting out, hey, I wanna buy this cabinet, and people sometimes reach out to me. Michael reached out to me. He had this Killer Instinct in his private collection for like, I don't know, I think it was 15, 20 years. So it hadn't seen a lot of arcade time. It hadn't really been used a bunch. He offered it to me at a good price, and I'm very grateful, but you're probably not gonna get that lucky. You probably need to just troll Facebook constantly, like I mentioned earlier. Another thing is, if you do find the one you're looking for, you need to be ready at that moment. Contact the buyer immediately. Have a trailer ready, have your vehicle ready. If you don't have a trailer or a truck, be ready to hit that local U-Haul store and get a U-Haul trailer to throw it in, because a lot of times these people are getting hit with offers right and left. And one last thing, I'm not a pro at this. I know there's some arcade guys watching this probably pounding their screen or hitting their fist on the desk like, no, you need to look for this. That's stupid. You need to do this. You can leave a comment to help other people. I don't mind. I'm not going to be offended. I may only argue with you if I think it's a bad idea for noobs. Even if you're right for general arcade purchasing, I don't want to give information to someone who's new that may take it and be unhappy with in the future. So you arcade pros out there, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. And noobs, let me know if this helped you. And if you do go out and buy an arcade cabinet using these tips, let me know how it went. I hope it was good. Please don't be mad at me otherwise. But leave me a comment either way. Let me know what you guys think. Give the video a thumbs up if you found it helpful. Subscribe if you're new to the channel and want to see more arcade content, including finding out how much I paid for each of these machines. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you on the next video.